name is Melissa Ferrer-Smith with Forward Thinking Leverage Solutions. Welcome to Tea Time with Missy. I'm so happy to introduce our special guest, Robert Daugherty. He currently leads global talent acquisition for Lowe's company, a Fortune 50 retailer in the home improvement space. Robert is passionate, dynamic, progressive, and an innovative thought leader in the talent acquisition space. He has proven history to build best-in-class global talent acquisition functions for world-renowned brands. With a specialty in leading transformation projects in large scope, global enterprises, Robert understands how to set a strategic vision, not that alone, but also how to execute well and lead his team and organizations through cycles of change. Robert, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. It's a interesting time for all of us these days, coming out of, well, probably still in the middle of a pandemic, and certainly what's happening with what's happening socially too.
Yes, I appreciate your time. I know that these are busy times for you as well as for Lowe's. Thank you for carving some time and helping other organizations through your expertise. I wanted us to talk about talent acquisition and how that's shifting during these times. So I have a few questions for you. How has it been to work with Lowe's, an organization that has thrived during this pandemic?
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting as we've gone through and identified as an essential employer and an essential business.
Mm-hmm.
It's really been this dichotomy where you've had companies that have been going through really tough times and furloughs and layoffs, and then if you look back at our quarter, we had record financial results. But what I really think about is the amount of people that come into our stores, and above all else, as we've gone through this pandemic, is making sure that we take care of our associates' health and our customers' health. That's such a big part. So so much has gone into how do we ensure social distancing, how do we make sure that our stores are cleaned regularly, and there's just been so much that we've done that's really made me proud. But it's been a lot of work. I'll tell you, I've been here a little over 90 days, and this is certainly not the first 90 days book that many people know about. This chapter did not exist in there of, come into the organization, deal with a global pandemic as you're still trying to figure out where to park in the garage. So, it's certainly been exciting. I think one of the things that we've really tried to do, because so many people in our communities have been impacted negatively by this, is just figure out where we can help, and whether that's donating PPE equipment to people that are on the front line and healthcare and firemen and people that are dealing with this firsthand, to where can we help other companies that are going through furloughs or tough times. So we've built some partnerships with some large, great organizations that were going through furloughs, where we were able to hire a lot of their people in a kind of a seasonal capacity, which is happens to be our busiest time of the year. So we typically hire between 50 and 70,000 seasonal hires a year. This first quarter, we hired over 100,000 people. So we've certainly been busy during these times.
Super busy. I've seen your CEO and I've seen you post a bit on LinkedIn, and it's clear that the organization does have a care for people, because I see that regular communication. I see that communication supporting the employees. I see the communication informing the customer. I see the communication on diversity inclusion, and I can see those constant postings on we're hiring, we need this, and just being transparent. So kudos to you, because I see Lowe's as a model of what other organizations can emulate in just caring for people. And through that care, you manage the rest of the transition of a business operation. So what are you most proud about with Lowe's? It seems like they really do it well. They get it right.
It's really everything that you just mentioned. So I will tell you, as I decided to leave my previous employer and looking at new opportunities, one of the biggest things that I was looking for was a culture and a leadership team that cared. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure out really if that exists or not. It has not taken a long time here. So the leaders here from Marvin on down through the organization are some of the most authentic, transparent, caring leaders I've ever seen. And going through this pandemic where we have dealt with deaths and people being sick and people working long hours and our associates putting themselves in harm's way on the front line, really proud of what we did as a company, right? So we came out and we gave special payments to our frontline associates. We gave them hourly increases. We've donated to the community in both time and materials. And so much of what we do is about taking care of our communities and our associates and our customers. I mean, that's really the most important part. And then as I shift over the last couple of weeks to what's happening in our world today around social injustices and racism, and things that really hit home with me. And I'll tell you something that I see as really unique compared to other companies I've worked for where things have come up in the past. And I think so many companies have come out and said, leave certain conversations at home, right? Kind of check them at the door, whether you're talking about political issues, social issues, religious issues. Sorry, my light just went out. So you never know what you're going to get on live video, right? So much has always been, don't have those conversations at work. And I think one of the things I'm most proud about is we're going the exact opposite. And in fact, not only saying, is it okay to have these conversations at work, but we're actually encouraging them. I will tell you, earlier today, I sat on a call with my corporate team, which is about 50 people. And we talked for over an hour about nothing other than just what's happening in our world today and that need to communicate with each other, right? Both from a leader perspective, but peer to peer. And I will tell you, it is the most emotional, real conversation I've ever had at work. And we had people that were sharing their experiences, right? The number of people that were crying or choked up, it was pretty much everybody. It was incredibly emotional and it was so real, right? I had one of my employees who talked about her, had a family member a year ago that was unarmed and killed by the police. And you hear people talk about where they've grown up and how they've grown up with racism and just fearing every time their son, leaves the house to go to work and will he come back, and the talk that people have to have. I mean, it's fostering those communications and those conversations, I think, is one of the most important things that can happen. And with that, right, not forcing, but encouraging those awkward conversations, because it does get kind of awkward and scratchy, but that's how we learn. And I think it's so important. And I'm so proud of kind of who we are as an organization to encourage those conversations. Things like, Marvin being African American, the fact that we only have 4 African American CEOs out of the Fortune 500 is mind-boggling, right? That's 0.8%, and Lowe's is the largest company with an African American CEO. So that's something that we certainly take a lot of pride in, but also a lot of responsibility, and saying, hey, it is important for us to get out and talk about this. And as a white male talking to a person of color, and being able to say, hey, I'm going to make myself vulnerable, right? And I need to hear you and listen to you and hear your stories, and make it okay that if I say something back or ask a question, that it's coming from a place of care and love, even if it may sound tone deaf or not the right word. So we just had this amazing conversation of there were probably at least 20 people that spoke up and just talked about how they were feeling and going through. And I think it's so important for us as leaders today to just check in on people and just say, hey, how are you doing? How do you feel about all this? Are you okay? Because so many people aren't. And I think as leaders, TA or not TA, and just as humans, I think it's really important to have those conversations that for so long have been told you can't have at work.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that point, because it's a great example. And a lot of times in leading businesses, where there's things that we want to do as leaders and ask questions and there's a little bit of fear, right? What can I say?
Mm.
What can I do? But I think the world is turning into more candid communication and more transparency. And as you gave the example of, I may ask this question or I'm not sure if this can be offensive, but if you come with a good intention to really learn, people are going to exchange, and it's invaluable, the stories that you can really hear from people. I'm also too an advocate of care for people and leading change. I think that for businesses to be successful, they need to be able to listen to their people, understand their story, their experiences. And from that, of course, you make changes, you make adjustments. And that's a constant, right? The business changes, there has to be that transparency and that open dialogue. So that's great that you shared that experience.
Yeah, it's one of those as I just think through leadership, right? And I think back to every great boss I've had. I think back to the ones that haven't been great bosses, and the commonality between the great ones, and I've had ones that were, really laid back, and I've had ones that were really intense. But the one common thread through all of it is they cared. They made me feel like I was cared for, and they were looking out for my best interests. And I think that's such an important quality that when you talk about leadership and you talk about all of the different qualities that go through, at the end of the day, it's so much about caring and caring more about your team members and the people in your span of care than it is about yourself. And right, as I have this philosophy of I can make my boss successful and I can make the people that work directly for me successful, I'll be okay. And I think part of that is just kind of who I am as a human. And when I think about the best leaders I've ever had, they always make me feel cared for.
Yes, it's kind of aspiring to support others, right? It's almost
Yeah,
a privilege. And the ripple
absolutely.
effect of caring for people, you see, I mean, people spend many hours at work, right? So they're happier, they feel that they're valued, they're recognized, they're enthusiastic, they're transparent and coming and speaking to their leader and, hey, why don't we try this? And so it's only a positive effect in the well-being of the employee coming to work, but also the ripple effect of the quality and the quantity of work that comes and the dedication and loyalty to the business and the leaders. So great points, Robert. What advice do you offer to other talent acquisition leaders to create an impact in the business as we're evolving now during these times?
The most important thing is you have to speak and understand what the business cares about, and could be multiple things, right? That could be turnover, it could be diversity, it could be a myriad of different things. But I think when you're really talking about creating that impact with the business, you have to be able to speak in their language, and you really have to be able to identify what is important to them and what do they care about. Because if I go in and start talking about some metric that has no relevance to their business, they're not going to care. You know, at Lowe's, right? Every one of our candidates is a customer. So our candidate experience is really, really important. And we're not perfect, and I wouldn't even say we're good yet, right? But we will be, and the plan is to be great at that. We've gotten in the first 3 months of the year in our fiscal quarter, which started in February, almost 1.5 million candidates in 3 months. There's only so many people you can say yes to. So it's really important in how you say no to people and make them still feel valued, thank them for applying, make sure that they know that it's really important, for us that they applied, and be able to close that loop with dignity, even when that answer is no. But going back to that business side, I think so much of it is, being able to speak their language. You have to be data driven, right? You have to be able to show that ROI back in whatever those key metrics are, and then be able to tie your strategies to say, hey, we're going to improve this or reduce this, lay out what that strategy and business plan is, and then be able to go execute it and come back and show those results, and hopefully how those results show that business impact.
Mhm. And I'll add to your point, Rob, that a lot of times when we come from other broader organizations, when we have many years of experience, sometimes we come with an approach of I know what you need, right? I know the strategy that you need. You kind of come with a pre-agenda. And the reality is that strategy that you did for another organization or in the past is not the strategy that applies to your current business. So I would say too, taking the time to understand, you mentioned really understanding what the needs are is an excellent point, because it's what that business needs in that moment in time, and will vary for the future years and will vary from your experience and what you did with another organization. It's just really having the openness to study and partner with the leaders, understand what the needs are. So great advice.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a great point, because I think as you go in, right, and I've done numerous transformations for a long time, hence the gray hair probably shows that. But you're right. Every time you go in, it's like a whole new evaluation of what you have, right? And what are the business objectives? What kind of resources do I have?
Right.
I've built I've built models that were completely all centralized. I've built models that were completely outsourced. I've built combinations. So it really depends on what the organization needs. And then as you go through that, right, you have to have that agility to be able to make changes. One of the things that we talk about is don't fall in love with the plan, right? It could be a great plan, but if it's not the right plan, for the organization you're with, or even the time, of where you're at in a company, because if you're in a growth mode, things can change overnight, and they have over the last couple of months.
Right.
So you could have one strategy go down one path, something happens, and you need to be able to pivot and go a different direction very quickly.
Mhm. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Rob. Anything else you'd like to share, but anything that I missed asking?
No, this has been great. It's always great to get a chance to see you and talk with you, even though we're a little bit further away than when I normally see you.
Yes,
But
thank you, Rob. It has been a pleasure talking to you. For our viewers, once we have this video posted, please go ahead and ask any questions. My role with Forward Thinking Leverage Solutions has to do with setting up strategies and plans for enterprise. And it's all about helping the organizations showcase better their strengths. And so we look forward in learning more about any questions you may have from this great interview. And once again, Rob, thank you for your time, and we wish our
thanks,
viewers well.
Missy.
Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.